55,838 kilometers, 15 flights, 14 airports, 8 airlines, and 3 days and 3 hours later, this is my recap of my 2023 travels. Last year, I didn't travel as much as I did compared to 2022, and yet I feel so accomplished with all the places I went. I think 2022 is my re-intro year into travel, and I went a lot of places that fell into my comfort zone. But I think in 2023, I challenged myself more, traveled for longer, and tried a bunch of new things. I spent the first 6 months of 2023 at home, and even then, I only booked my first trip to Greece in late Feb. I don't know why I didn't, but I really didn't feel the urge to go anywhere, and even before leaving for Greece, I didn't want to leave. I know I'm not the only one, but I have a workaholic problem where once I get into working, it's hard to snap out of that mindset of just keep working. And this is why I encourage everyone to travel, because there's so much more to life than just work. There's so much to see, so much to do, so much to experience, and there's so many cultures to immerse yourself in. Each of my travels this year was so different. The first one solo, the second one with someone else, and the last one solo but in a group tour, and each one challenged me in a different way. In Greece, I had to overcome this feeling of loneliness because I felt there was little to no solo travel community. My emotions were so easily swayed depending on the island I was at. I had breakdowns several times, to say the least, and needed my friends back home to console me. I rented a car and managed to navigate on my own. I met up with friends momentarily. I did everything I wanted to and explored all the places I wanted to go and made even more friends who I still keep in touch with today. I came back home wishing I didn't have to, and even though the beginning and the middle of this trip had me down, I would do it all over again because this trip changed and challenged my idea of fear. Fear for my safety versus fear for everything else. Two completely different things. And before you knew it, it was time to go to Asia. The work guilt really hit me because I was going for 3 weeks this time, the longest I've ever left home since 2019. This trip taught me about compromise. I'm usually the type to do everything on my own, and I have no problem splitting up from other people to do my own thing. And I was ready to do that this time too. But as we all know, nothing ever goes according to plan. This entire trip, a whole 3 weeks of my life, there was never a time I was alone. We did everything together, and there was never a moment where we were apart doing our own things. Did we get along the entire time? Absolutely not. But this was the first time in 4 years that I had actually purposely planned a trip with someone else, and it just reminded me about the importance of communication and compromise. And this time, I really came back wishing I could be a tourist in Japan forever. And finally, the last trip of 2023 came last minute, and at the very end of the year. What sparked this trip was the feeling that I didn't belong in Vancouver or relate to anyone here anymore. I love my hometown, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. I find the culture here to be so work-focused with little to no priority for vacations and time off. It started to unsettle me, and I wondered if this was really the place for me, a travel-addicted 25-year-old who has no problem venturing off on her own. And so I went to Peru. I did a group tour because I was unsure of South America and didn't have the time to plan things out myself. I did a tour with a bunch of other 18 to 30-year-olds where we stayed in hostels and traveled around the country together. Again, challenging my ideas and preconceived notions of my own fears and what I consider to be safe. I found Peru to be amazing and would solo travel here on my own any day. But this trip, I think, was the most important of them all. It taught me that I'm not alone. It taught me that there are so many people out there in the world exactly like me with the same desire and crave for adventure. Almost everyone in this group was a solo traveler, and it was refreshing to see. Peru also taught me about my own mental toughness. I trekked the Inca Trail with altitude sickness and an empty stomach because my altitude sickness medication gave me an upset stomach. I could barely hold any food down. And once I got off that train at kilometer 104, there was no turning back. I had committed, and I made it. There were so many times that I wanted to quit and turn back around because I knew I wasn't halfway there yet, but I just kept going. And I think that was an important reminder to me that I can do hard things in life. 2023 was full of ups and downs, but I came out of it with a better trust and confidence in myself, with lifelong friends, and with the knowledge that no matter where I go, I'm never truly alone. This was my 2023 travel year, and I know this video comes late, but I can't wait to share the 2024 travel recap already.